Hey guys, hello, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Morning, Professor.
Good morning.
Morning. So nice to see you again. So I will be starting presenting. Okay, great. So today we're going to start talking a little bit more about international service development and with a concentration in Mexico. Like, what is the perspective of services here in Mexico? And we later going to talk about a little bit about regulations kind of stuff and some value added in services. So, okay, the Mexican reality in service. So as we all know, we live in a developing country and sometimes we have similar relatives in their economy to development, especially in respect with their tertiary sector. So sometimes we can think that Mexico is not an example of a tertiary sector and more about an industrial sector, but that will not be necessarily the way. Like, I mean, we also have good things on our country about services, even though we still have to start learning more about developed countries. So here are some data that we also analyzed yesterday, but separately. So here I just tried to put everything in one slide so that we can start comparing and seeing at which point are we right now. So this is more like a general slide. We can here see the number for Latin America and the Caribbean. As you saw yesterday, we have 60.6%. comparing to the world, which is 61.2%. So in Latin America, we're a little bit lower of the world's average. So the countries that are high income, which are the OECD members, tend to have 69.8%, which will be all developed nations. And for North America, sometimes here they consider Mexico on it, but sometimes it don't. So here, it's just considering Canada and the United States, and it's 77.4%, which is higher than the high income of the USDA and higher of the world's average. And here I just put a little quote where it says, and I think it's obvious, that most developing nations tend to have a lower percentage of GDP in services, while developed nations tend to have a high percentage of representation in the GDP of services. So coming back, what is the proportion of the service industry measured against GDP in Mexico? So as we saw yesterday, is 60.5%. And if we think about Latin America, we're a little bit lower, but it's not that representative. But still, we are lower than the world's. And here, so how does Mexico perform in services development compared to other Latin American countries? Is it a high income or low income? So here I just put some examples. Well, here's the Latin American Caribbean percentage. And in here we have some data about Chile, Brazil, Panama, and Cayman Island. Some of those countries we saw yesterday, for example, Chile is 58.7%. And my perception, like my personal perception, will be that Chile will have a higher percentage of services in GDP. But no, it's just like 58.7%. It's lower than Mexico's. And sometimes we think that Chile is a really developing country, growing a lot and fast. But it's only 58.7. And in comparison to Brazil, we have 63.3%, which also Brazil is an economy that has been growing lately. And we also have Panama, which is 65%. And this is also because of the Canal of Panama, because of the logistics that they do there. And then we have Cayman Island, which is an island of the Caribbean that we talked yesterday. It's 87%, and this is because they are like an island of financial services. They pretty much live about that, and also it's great on tourism. So just compare this to the high income countries. Well, we have still a lot to learn in both sides. So just focusing more in Mexico, and this is not the World Bank anymore. This is INEGI, which is the statistical source here in Mexico. So in here, we will going to find out that it's pretty much the same information that we saw on the World Bank, but it just gives us more information about, you know, the sector of the year that we're covering. As you can see, the tertiary activities will be involving more money than the primary and the secondary. So, well, first of all, we will have as the lowest amount primary, then secondary, and then tertiary. So what is interesting in here is that if you see these numbers, the tendency, they're not going up. At the contrary, they're going down. So we will have to pay like a really big attention on here on why are we going down on the tertiary activities? Why is it happening here? Like, is not enough support? Something happened in that year? Maybe it will be just a matter of investigating a little bit on it, but this will be a really high concern in the future, right? Because this number is supposed to be growing, and instead it's going down, and it applies the same to secondary activities. Okay, so here we're going to see more about regions of Mexico. So as you all know, a country has divided by regions, and those regions have states and everything. And sometimes we see that some regions tend to be more developed in some sectors than others. So that's what we are going to be seeing here. So in the total economy, here we have Mexico totals, and then we have the representation of the North, Center, South, and South. So here, the most important region, as the statistics says, is the northern part. And if we talk about tertiary activities, we will have the same information, that the region of the North will be the most developed in talking about services. So I wonder, can anyone tell me why do you think this happens? Like, why do you think the North part tend to have more developed in general terms and in services?
Because we're closer to the frontier with the United States.
Yes, so that tend to be like a really good advantage for ourselves, that we're close, like from the people we live in here in the North. So as we're really close to the United States, normally they go back to Mexico to do some stuff like cheaper in Mexico. So they start looking for the northern region, which is the closest. So they in some way sometimes invest more in here than in the South, for example. And also, as we're so close, we tend to have some types of closeness to the United States ways of thinking or applying things. So in a way, we're more open to that, and we start learning all of the things that they apply there and just starting to apply in here. And also, I think one thing that it's pretty much a thing is that sometimes you know that states have its own governments, and that will also be affecting or promoting some sectors to be developed more. So here in the north in Monterrey, we are a lot about industries, and we have a lot of support about the government, like the state government, to like, I don't know, increment the investment and promote new jobs, etc. And sometimes also that it's good to take into consideration is that the main cities probably they will have like a high, like that section of the country will have a high representation of activities, especially in services, because normally the talent go there, and as we have more talent, it is more probably for us to develop in services. So just for you to have that in mind. I don't know if someone has something to say about it or a comment. Okay, great. So continuing with the presentation. So I already asked you that. What do you think is the factor that contributes to the development of service in a region? So here is just like a little information about the World Trade Organization, and it's about trading commercial services in Mexico. So here we can see these are the exports and the imports. So what's the concentration of exports in services in Mexico? So you can see a little bit about transportation, travel, and well, other commercial services. That will be our exports in terms of services. Then about imports, it will also be transportations and travel. So this is like the percentage kind of way that you can see the imports and the exports of services. So thinking about a little bit about where to find out the information about an industry in Mexico, what would you think like will be your database core center? Like, I mean, we will have a lot of information coming from different types of sources, and a lot of sources will tell you different things, because normally when you talk about companies, it will be a matter of perspective and who you're like asking to. I mean, if you're asking what sector, like what industry will be the biggest in services, and you ask that to the tourism guy of the government, he will probably say like tourism, of course, you know. So sometimes we will have to be complementing all our sources and just having that kind of mindset to just not look in one place, but to look in more than one, so that we can have our own opinion on that. So I just wanted to mention some several companies that are like the hardest and biggest in Mexico. And this is the Periódico Expansión, which is a really big newspaper here in Mexico. And they listed like the top 500 companies in Mexico. And here, as we can see, we have a lot of things going in here. Like it will be the secondary sector, the tertiary sector. So it's like a mixture of everything. So in the first place, we will have Petróleos Mexicanos. And can someone think why Petróleos Mexicanos will be in the ranking #1? Why would you think that happens? Well, that might be happening because they have a lot of support, like government support, and in some way that helps them to start developing and creating new things, ways of extracting the petroleum. So in the second place, we have América Móvil, which is a telecommunications company, which is a service. Then we have Walmart of Mexico, will enter, like Walmart of Mexico will not kind of, it's a retail, but in terms of commerce, they have been growing a lot, and it might has been a service. Comisión Federal de Electricidad, which is energy. Then is FEMSA, which is a holding company that has a lot of companies inside. General Motors in third place. FCA Mexico, it's an assembler. Alfa, it's another holding company. Nissan Mexico is another assemble. And Grupo Financiero BBVA Bancomer, it's a financial services. So pretty much if we see like all the companies that we are here, we have telecommunications, we have petroleum, we have a lot of holding companies and financial services, and also assemblers, because you know Mexico is really strong in the things of assembler, especially in cars. Okay, so the Mexican service industries. So which one will they come to your mind when you think about which industries might have like at the top of mind in services here in Mexico? So first of all, we will have the retail trade, which I just mentioned, like for example, Walmart. Then we have the real estate. And when we talk about real estate, it is not necessarily like the physical building, that will not be a service, but a service will be all the things that involve to do a real estate, like all the services that are involved, I don't know, you know, the people selling and that kind of transactions, it will count as a service. And if you think about it, that will be a high industry here in Mexico. So the other one is wholesale trade, which is the one that is like, it's a retail, but it will be business to business. And that has a lot of support here in Mexico. The other one is transport, financial service, tourism service, and other will be food and beverage preparation and auto repair. When I think about auto repair, what it comes into my mind is when you have a problem with your car and you take them somewhere to fix it, that will be auto repair, and will not be the same as assembling the cars, which assembling the cars will be the secondary industry. But here in auto repair, it will go directly to the third sector, because it's giving you a service of repairing your car. So that will be different, okay? Just for you to have that in mind. So talking more about how you can see services in a free trade agreement. I don't know if you have read all the USMCA, or if you have had a touch in the previous FTA, which was NAFTA. And one of the specific things that the main challenge that they have in the USMCA was pretty much adding services. Because if you went back and look at NAFTA, you will realize that there were no enough information and regulation and an agreement about how will service work between the three countries. So here in the USMCA, we have a little bit more information. Still, I think that it should have more information about it. But one of the most important chapters here in the USMCA will be the chapter 15, which will talk about, cross-border trading services. And here it will be, it's cool to see that they put the same concepts that the World Trade Organization define about services, about how to trade services, the 4 types of export modes that we have just been talking about this week. They, in that chapter 15, you will see them. So that's a way of you seeing how the World Trade Organization putting some concepts and ways of doing services, applying them just now into real life, into a free trade agreement. So in the chapter 15, you will be seeing that. Then they also talk about the temporary entry of business persons in chapter 16. And financial services, a little bit more on telecommunications and digital services. So Yes, so in here, what do you think? I don't know, I want to know what's your perspective of the USMCA talking about services? Do you think it's enough? Do you think it should like cover more things, be more specific, or like it was a big step just adding services in here? What do you think?
Well, I think as you said, like it is a big step because the other agreement didn't have a thing about services, but services are evolving so quickly that it is very hard to keep track and regulate them. So it is a big step, but it is not enough. And especially if you want to be fair for your own country, like maybe the other countries are taking more advantage of services than you are. So it is a big step, but I think it will be very hard to keep track of all of them as they arise.
Of course, yes. It, as you said, sometimes like one day might be 1 year in terms of new concepts and new applications. So that's hard. And I think that's hard like in any free trade agreement, like to put track and start like, refreshing the information. But yeah, it's a big step. Thank you. Andres?
Yes, I agree with Sara, and I think that the USMCA in regards with services can work as a blueprint for future trade agreements. I think that's very valuable and it's a step in the right direction. It can also work like as a framework or reference for future trade agreements, especially between countries that don't have as much experience on previous trade agreements and want to establish new ones.
Yes, that's great. Yes, it will take like an example for all other countries to encourage them to put like all the information about services and everything. Thank you so much, Andres. Raúl?
Yes, thank you. I think it's good, but I think we need to get a little bit deeper because I think well, governments are a little bit, well, they want to regulate everything. I mean, I understand. At the same part, it is needed since we're talking about trade. But nowadays, people are trying to develop services that are decentralized, and that is very interesting. I don't know how it's going to work on trade, but people are trying to do that because of the whole situation with data and that type of information within the governments and big companies. So I think it will be more interesting if the governments try to understand a little bit more of this whole like DeFi thing or decentralized thing and just accept the fact that we can, I don't know, like benefit a little bit more since COVID has proved that we can live in a more digital world. Even though I'm not a whole fan of it, I think that we need to adapt, and maybe the government needs to be a little bit more flexible. But I think services are the future. I do believe it. It doesn't I mean, a service can be an app or either a service you provide physically to others. So yes, I think that that's the case, and it's very interesting.
Yes, yes, pretty much that. And also what I forgot to mention is that in the USMCA, we don't have like a sector for commercial presence. Like some topics, they don't want to go like a lot of deeper on it. Like they just prefer to just like put it, por arriba, how you say it in Spanish. So also thing that I was thinking about, and I know like it's a free trade agreement and sometimes they are really encouraging the countries just to regulate and okay, if you do this, it will be wrong and don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, or a lot of laws and a lot of regulations. But if you see like in another perspective, they sometimes don't put like, hey, how would you help and how will we learn and how will be encouraging ourselves one another to perform better. So I think that that's one of the things that is missing in the free trade agreement. So less of a regulation and more about achieving together and ways of achieving, collaboration. which at the end of the day is what we're trying to do. Like, it's not just about putting laws on it. So yes, it's interesting to see how we have been evolving from where we started, like NAFTA. I mean, we're doing better, but still there are things to do. We know that it took them a lot of time to get into this new agreement, but maybe like in the other years that they have to be like revising another time the USMCA, they will start adding more things. I don't know, I guess it's a matter of time. We will see how that goes. Okay, so challenges in the tertiary sector for Mexico and other developing nations. So I wanted to also make some questions to you. What's the technical activity action that will help us develop more into services? So what do you think has to happen here, like in Mexico, so that we like come from being like a really industry country to more like a service country?
I think first, I think that monopolies have to go down a little bit. Like starting with the gasoline as Pemex, the telephone service as Telmex or Telcel, and kind of the banking services as well. I mean, even though those few banks are national, they all offer same financial services. But I think for us to be a little bit more of a service country, we need to serve as an example, since well, ourselves as Mexicans, we're kind of stuck in the older ways of doing things. You can see it in the older generations, as when you ask them more a presentation, even like small things as a presentation or something, a picture or uploading something or a digital form, they are kind of afraid, and they are not willing to adapt that a little bit better. So first, that kind of education into just forming ourselves and fellow generations into understanding that services and digital things are going to help us and are not necessarily going to rob us in a way, or to store our data, or government are going to spy. I don't know. That's a lot of absurd things. And I think that's the first step. And I mean, there's more steps, such as like developing and giving the people a little bit more chance, and democratizing competitiveness and that sort of stuff, but it's more complex.
Yes, of course. And you said something really important here, because services, as we have been seeing, it involves a lot of human talent. And one of the things to start on is to invest on that human talent, to be more like in studies, have more opportunities about knowing, because from that, it will be starting to develop more into services. So yes, great. Thank you so much, Raul. Linda?
Yes, I think that what Mexico needs is also to like look forward into the technology and like start teaching, like for example, us like how to program or how to develop, I don't know, like a new language that is for programming, because most of the time we have the creativity, we have the idea, we have the business model, but we are trying to implement it as in the old way, like how it was in the past. But nowadays, all these technologies, so we need to get used to that, because it's mainly what the United States is doing. Like most of the successful services are applications or are online, and we need to like look forward into it.
Yes, of course. And it's also a matter of perception that the people that want to develop that has to be more open, and also us as a consumer, we have to be more open too, because as we've seen the example of Cinepolis, the new type of experience, they're digitalizing everything 100%, and still like some of us still has some, you know, like way of thinking like, oh my God, I want like physical interaction, or this is a lot of technology involved. So it might go like kind of a cultural thing that we will just have to switch that mind of us, like, okay, we'll have to be more open, we have to be more like technology wise and something. So I think it's a challenge, and it's like work that it has to be made in both sides, like from the consumer and from the industry itself. Thank you so much, Linda. Okay, so that takes me into the other question. So what type of activity that you see normally, like in your everyday life, is a service? You know that it's a service, and you know that you like they don't pay taxes at all, like completely not taxable. Yes, Donato?
I think this is a very important question because Mexico is a very informal type of country. I once read that about the 23% of the gross domestic product of Mexico was generated by informal businesses. All of those businesses that are not registered at SAT, there's a huge amount of them, and all of those do not pay taxes and are not, well, being seen by the government, and they completely avoid some processes like this ones.
Yes, of course. We have a lot of informal economies and companies and entities, persons. So can anyone give me an example of a service that it's not paying taxes?
Probably taxi drivers.
Yes, taxi drivers is a great example. Like they are all the way like in the city driving, and probably they don't pay any taxes like at all. Yes, that's a good example, Andres. Thank you. Someone, Enrique?
Also a streaming company like Netflix and Prime, Disney, Spotify, and those companies.
Do you think those companies don't pay taxes, like, or
Well,
they do?
here in Mexico, I don't think so.
Okay, maybe some types of streamings, like more like Twitch, maybe they will not be paying taxes. I don't think, like, it's my idea, no, like sometimes like smaller companies, the streaming companies, but maybe Netflix, I don't know, we will have to find out, see their financial statements. Okay, thank you, Enrique.
Sure.
Raul?
Yes. Well, I don't know. I think small Instagram businesses or that sort of shops that are, well, kind of new. Of course, when they grow, they have to. But I mean, when I don't know, when they're still small and at the same time just gaining good profit, I think they don't. And well, they created a law about the fintech, so I don't know how well it is regulated, since like these all like cryptocurrency aspect and like finance. But I think they're trying to resolve it, but it's the hard part. But yeah, well, yes, I must say like the small Instagram shops, because like we all know like all these, like as Donato mentioned, all those informant like merchants that are on the street. Of course they don't.
No, of course they don't. And I mean, if you open up your Instagram, I think I follow a lot of influencers, like a lot of them, and I know they make a lot of money out of it. Like it's the new way of advertising, like for a lot of companies. And do you really think that these brand ambassadors think like pay taxes? Maybe some of them does, but I don't think like it's a minimum percentage of the people that does. And also other activities and services that we are really in contact to, for example, babysitting. Like it's not the same being in a company that it's a formal company that it's paying taxes, and that you go and work for them and they will find you like a place to babysit, that will be a formal. But if I don't know, I ask my cousin, hey, please come and babysit my brother or something, they will have to, like, I will have to pay her, but that will not be paying taxes. So a lot of domestic works they don't pay taxes, and that represents a huge number here in the GDP of Mexico, and it's not there. So that's the great challenges that we have here in Mexico. Imagine, like, right now we have the 60.3%, and if we have our informal business going into formal, maybe that percentage will be like higher, like highest, like I don't know what number to give you, but I'm pretty sure that that number will be like bigger. So that's the main challenge that Mexico has. So we still have a lot of big companies and great companies that they are not paying taxes, and we have no way to, find out if that will be helping the economy or not. So just to give you some information, as we said, the main challenge here in Mexico is that we have the formal sector and the informal sector. So the formal sector is the activities that contribute to the country's GDP, everything that will be paying taxes. And the informal or the underground is not regulated, not regulated. No, they don't pay taxes, and it doesn't add up to the country's GDP. Activities may be seen as formal, but they are not paying taxes. As we'll see, many restaurants doesn't pay taxes, many merchants. So yes, that's a great challenge for us to start switching to this. So how can we support the informal sector to become a formal sector? Like, what comes into your mind?
I think that tedious government processes for the establishment of companies, any business really, are really not helping Mexico.
Mhm.
The process is very, I just mentioned tedious, and I don't know the word in English, it's engorroso,
Mhm.
which means that you have to go through a lot of bureaucracy and processes and documentation, where in other countries, especially Europe and other Latin American countries, you can open your own business from an app, a mobile app. So I think that would really help reducing the number of tedious processes for business owners.
Yes, totally that. Like, they don't make them easy to go formal. Like, instead of, inviting everyone, hey, please come formal, they're just giving you like, hey, no, you need this, no, you need this, no, you need this. So at some point, some people gets annoyed, like they don't want to do so. Thank you so much, Andres. Jimena?
I also think that, well, there's not a lot of information. A lot of people here in Mexico, they don't know that their business is informal. They don't know how to turn it into a formal business. I mean, they are not aware that's impossible. So I think they definitely need to do a better job informing, like telling the people, the Mexicans, how to do this. Like, this doesn't contribute to the GDP. I mean, this doesn't help us, and you have to do this. But there's a lot of misinformation about this. And well, I think that's certainly something they can do better.
Yes, totally. There no, like, you don't know where to go to know all the steps that you have to be doing to go formal. Thank you so much, Jimena. Okay, so I also have another question. So you said, what can a nation do to make that switch, like actually implementing? Have you seen, like, I don't know, something in another country that we can implement here in Mexico, or any ideas like to go beyond that? It's like an actual way of action, something in your mind? Yes, Sarah?
Well, I've seen some campaigns about, I don't know if countries, or the government itself, like telling them the benefits of going formal. Like, you have, your employees can have an insurance, then later on you can ask for financial services in case you need them for your company. So it's more like communicating the message that maybe people do not know what's the point of being formal. And if employees, for example, know, I think like they can make pressure on, this can be the benefits, the process is more simple than before. So I think it's more like communicating the idea, or the actual benefits it has.
Yes, totally. Someone else want to say something? Okay, well, great. Thank you so much all for sharing.
Well, Miss,
Yes,
yeah, actually, I think well, it may sound harsh, but I think it's necessary. One way we can support the informal to become formal is to not to punish, but um to not let them like just give us a little bit of money under the table and just for them to be there. I mean, of course, corruption is always a problem, but I mean, I personally like saw it this summer. How there's a big problem where if you have a like some free meters of land, um just people to just go and put on a tent and they're just having their burritos or tacos or whatever. And they usually like, of course, they have a permit, but they usually like give money to the people in el ayuntamiento, in the city hall, for them to be there. And they just like each week they just give money to them to let them be there. I think it like now it's like very easy. Like people see it like, pues que se ponga ahí, como ahí está, ahí se queda, o sea, como les vale. So at the same time, we need to stop this and like to punish them like, hey, you can't be here, this is private property, or even though it's not from anyone, like you shouldn't do it. And I think to punish, like just to say, like to warn them a little bit and be a little bit more harsh.
yes. It's not like how you say it, like it's not for them to be like really strict about it, but don't be that easy going, easy going, meaning taking money underground and just like thinking, oh, it's okay, and just like give it aside and aside and aside and not paying the attention that it must have. Yes, totally.
May I say something in Spanish?
Yes,
Sí,
go
o
ahead.
sea, digo, para decirlo más rápido porque Paola quiere hablar. O sea, es nada más como decirles como, o sea, sí, no solamente es como quitarlos y bueno, los dejas sin trabajo porque a lo mejor es su único ingreso, pero es simplemente como que les prestas tú otro tipo de alternativa en vez de decir como, bueno, también el gobierno tiene que empezar a apoyar a esas personas. O sea, digo, no con subsidios porque se incrementa la inflación, pero pues también es como tienes que brindar otra alternativa. Si ya no los vas a dejar estar ahí, pues cómo los vas a apoyar, porque pues esa gente no tiene otra manera de mantenerse. Entonces también es como ver ese mismo sitio, pero sí es como tener un poquito más mano dura para decir, pues oye, o sea, este terreno es de alguien más o algo así, o también, o sea, no seas atractiva la ciudad, bla, 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 y pues proponer algo más y que también ayude a pues la ciudad, las instituciones privadas y como las mismas personas que quieren vivir de algo.
Yes, and sometimes, Paula, if you want to talk.
Yes, I was actually going to say that we're maybe not considering the fact that more than half of the population of Mexico earns on a day-to-day basis. So maybe they don't have the money or the financial resources to establish a formal business or to do things the right way per se. And because they don't have any financial record, financial institutions cannot like lend them money or give them credits to do that. So I mean, I think more the issue here is making the process of establishing a business a lot easier, especially for the people that don't have the financial resources available to them.
Yes, of course. Like all that you've said, it's pretty much like the whole answer of it. And it's more like when you think about how Raul was saying, and you think about a policeman just going through to the guy of the tacos and just telling him like, hey, you shouldn't be here, and just, okay, I'll give you money. Okay, that's okay. So they, most of the times, maybe the police will not know what steps to tell them to follow in order to go formal. Like they don't encourage the people to go formal either. So if we don't start with that, how can we start like having a switch? And also, as Paula was saying, yes, there maybe those people doesn't have the resources to go formal. And in that way, the government has to support them. I don't know, like maybe this is not possible. I don't know, it's just me giving example, but if you want a business to go formal, hey, I will not charge you anything for you to go formal, like all the documentation and everything will be just free. We will have meetings, we will support you. These are the steps. I clarify them to them. And also you can tell them, I don't know, in the first 2 years, you will not be paying taxes, just for you to start like, you know, going into slower to be informal, but they're following the path, like even though they will not be paying you taxes. And also a thing that happens a lot is that, okay, I'm formal, and what are you giving to me for me to like wanting to keep it formal? Like, are you giving me, I don't know, any program extra? Are you giving me resources? Are you giving me courses? What are you giving me? Like, I think sometimes the government is just following the law itself, but they don't go further. They don't see how to support the people that are already there formal. Like, what would you do for them to keep it formal? Like, if you are not giving them something, they will just be like, okay, I'm paying taxes, I'm earning less money, and I have no, like, you know, no advantage of it. Like, what's the purpose? So it will be a matter of supporting both sides, supporting the informal to go formal and the formal to stay formal. Yes, Sarah?
While you were talking, I was remembering that on the legal class we had on second semester, I think our professor told us about an initiative that I think Peña Nieto did of, I look for the notes, I have them here, like Sociedad de Acciones Simplificadas. Like, it's an easier way for people to go formal because they don't have to pay for a notary. And I don't know what it's CP, but I have CP, like you don't have to pay for a notary and a CP, but I don't know what CP was. And this is like for people to go formal, and you have your insurance, you have a advantage for financial services, and the only limitation you have is like until $5 million pesos, you can use the society. But if you like have more, yes, contador público, yes, like you save that money, so it's more attractive to go formal. So yes, if you have more than 5 million of revenue, then you do have to go to a Sociedad Anónima, and then to pay taxes and to pay for the whole notary and contador público. But it's like maybe people do not know, or this was not well communicated, because it sounds more attractive and it sounds like win-win situation for both parties. But yes, it's all about communication, I think.
Yes, of course. I didn't know about that. And yes, probably that is because of communication, and it's not just like putting things in the television, in the radio, but like going on the ground and go to the establishments and invite them. Like, that will be the way for them to keep that in mind, you know, like constant visits, or I don't know, like, I mean, it will involve a lot of effort from the government, but I mean, it's also affecting a lot the government. And at some point it will be like a positive change, you know, it's not something that will affect us at the long term. So yeah, perfect. Thank you so much all for your participation. I loved it. Okay, so here we're going to start talking a little bit about why changing into services. And I know we have said that there's a lot of data supporting that, but I think there's more about it. So first of all, there's the higher value creation. Sometimes when you think just about a product, like, it will give you the product itself, and the value creation is a perception that you put into that product, physical product. But when you think about services, services comes always with an experience, and that creates it's a different way of creating value. And in my perspective, it gets like more value. And when you talk about services, because of this value creation that they have, you don't care a lot about the cost versus the price. Like you don't mind, because if the creation of value, it's a good one, you will not care about paying. Like, I mean, in my case, when I go to Disney World, it's expensive, but I don't care at all. Like if I go there, I know that the value that they are giving me, it's higher than what I'm paying. And it will be a perception and value creation that they make through the experience. So also, there's a quicker innovation in a service. And if you think about it, if you want to change the iPhone, and if you want to make something like an innovation in an iPhone, it will take more time, it will take more money. And when you think about a service, you can act quicker, and the innovation is more like you can adapt to all the types of things that are going down in like in the environment. And also it's harder to copy because it has a huge value creation in all the supply chain. So you will not just have to copy the service itself, but you will have to go deeper and knowing about the human talent and about the innovations and about, so it gets more complex than just copying an iPhone itself. So that's about high value creation that comes within a service. And also another thing that will be positively here in services is the human talent versus the machines. So we have been knowing for a while that in some point the machines will substitute the human talent, and in some way it will. I mean, in some activities it might become automatic, and we will need the machines to do so. But in services, if you think about it, if what we have been saying is that it always comes with human talent and thinking and a perception of a human support. So that will not change at all. Like services will always have human talent because they need to make a better proposals, to become strategies, to innovate. So human talent will be needed in services, and that is like a really important fact. You will have job, in other terms. Okay. So other one is like easier transformation. They can adapt easier than a physical product, as I just said. An experience can be tropicalized more quicker, as we've seen the example of Cinépolis. Imagine how long it will take for, I don't know, another physical product to adapt to India if it comes from Mexico. And maybe it gets easier for transforming a service and an experience because it's intangible. So also it gets a better consumer connection. In my experience, and I don't know if it's your case, but when you have an experience in a service, it gets you by heart. Like literally it creates automatically a loyalty because it's intangible, because it's like something that it promotes in you and you want to feel it again. And like maybe when you buy some product, you get like, you will probably be loyal to the brand, but not the product itself. And when you think about a service, you will create like this connection and a loyalty with the brand and with the services because you get attached to the experience. So that's what happens a lot in services. And also, last but not least, it gets less plagiarism because intellectual property, it becomes harder to copy paste because it's, as I mentioned before, it involves all the supply chain and the value chain. So you will have to copy everything exactly the same, and it becomes harder because even though I want to like copy services that they made somewhere else, it will not be the same. Like it's harder to do so. And also it has been proven that it has a positive impact in economy. As we all seen, developing countries tend to have more in services, and that's why they're growing and services are growing, and everyone basically is telling you to follow that path. So that's the importance and the whole summary of why services are important and why we have to be literally having this class and knowing more about them. So, okay, what type of proposal would you come up with for a developing nation to create better services-oriented activities? So what would you think like a country will have to do, like to have value creation? Any guess? Yes, Raul?
Yes. I believe first in a developing nation, I think we should come with the services, as you say, that create value, sort of as education, finance, any sort of like industry, or like that give creativity also. Like instead of focusing either on like more like social media platforms or sort of ways, or I don't know, like people can say like, hey, they're making you dumber, or a little bit something like that. But I mean, at the same case, like those social media apps, they do promote creativity in a way. So it's important for like people to be updated and to understand and to see how other people develop. I'll go first with like education. I mean, not a way to fully replace traditional education or like normal schools, but yes, a way into we can offer a different education, and if possible, a better education digitally, since I mean, like COVID prove us right. Then I'll go with maybe like with health, like in the medical industry. I'll put in that part, maybe like, I don't know, like including like something of blockchain into the medical part. Something also like in the government, we could include something like blockchain within like the voting system, or in el catastro, when it comes in with real estate. And then I'll go with finance. Rather than like the banking system, I'll go with the financial inclusion and financial education. And then I don't know, maybe I'll focus in like any other parts that are missing or necessary. I don't know.
Okay, great. So basically, like our main focus should be in education, just to evolve and promote human talent. That's a great thing. And also kind of having a balance within like in your daily life, just like Instagram and education, and doing something that will contribute to your education itself. Yes, thank you a lot, Raul. Andres, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that education is crucial, and that, well, many developing countries think of the traditional economic model that to achieve an industry based on services, they should first start with industrialization and manufacturing and industry. However, this is not always the case. I believe that education is crucial, and as Raul and Linda mentioned, IT education and software development, that is not the traditional type of education, more of an avant-garde education. That's like the basis for all of development regarding services.
Yes, totally. So education will be a huge, like pretty much the center of attention here. Yes, great. Thank you so much. So continuing with the presentation, I want to talk a little bit also in what a country can do to promote like service-oriented activities and promote like cooperation and everything. So maybe you know this topic, and I'm sure you do, but just to get us start refresh, we will see.
Clusters are considered effective models for economic growth all over the world. But what exactly is a cluster? A cluster occurs when a group of similar and related firms in close geographic proximity come together to act on common interests. Clusters bring critical mass and allow smaller businesses to influence their stakeholders. This provides a unified voice, which is powerful for getting people to listen. Clusters also foster innovation among businesses, providing opportunities to develop and diversify. As a result, businesses are more competitive and can stay updated on changes within their industry. Naturally, this can lead to increased profitability and sustainability. This has flow-on effects for the wider community, leading to growth at a regional level and building strong communities. This brings us to the Northern Adelaide Plains. The region is a natural cluster, and our new cluster project can help take it to the next level. Check out www.northernadelaide.com.
Well, just to give us like a little hit on clusters, this is also a way of promoting cooperation and being more like unified and have more opportunities. So, I'm sorry. So a cluster, it's a group of interconnected firms, suppliers, related industries, and specialized institutions in a particular fields that are present in a particular location. So does anyone have something in mind? Like, for example, if you think about you're a company about app development and you're thinking somewhere to be established and you have like the money of the world, like don't worry about the budget. Where would you go? Like, what's the first city, the first country that comes into your mind to go and do this app development?
Maybe Silicon Valley.
Yes, totally Silicon Valley. So actually Silicon Valley is not like a cluster, like an official cluster, but if you think about it, like if you are a developing company, you will probably want to go there. Why? Because they have like, if you see, sometimes people think that you should have your competition like aside and is not closest to you, but it's a good way to be starting and learning and knowing to have your competitors closer. So that's what makes you see, if you are in the same area, you will see them, how is their work environment, who's going in, who's going out, what type of people are they acquiring for talent. So sometimes if you think about like in the other way, if I studied IT and I want to make an app development, I want to be in an app development company, where should I want to go? I will think about automatically, I want to go to Silicon Valley. So that also happens. If you have like a lot of companies in a city or in an area, all the human talent will automatically want to go there and establish there. And if you ask me, oh, which company you want to go? Well, like I will be like, I don't care. I just want to go to Silicon Valley because I know that's the place to go if I want to create a career in app development. So that happens a lot. And sometimes companies and states or countries doesn't think about clusters being a good way and a good opportunity to collaborate and start growing in some way. And why those clusters are important. So as I mentioned, specialized talent will automatically go there. And also, if you think about it, when you think about a cluster, it's not only a group of bunch of industry, but it also involves education, it also involves government, it also involves so are you saying that Silicon Valley is like Andres, it's like expensive or what's the like?
No, it's a very like interesting topic because
Mhm.
To what extent will Silicon Valley maintain its status as the software development capital of the world if many companies are leaving?
Yes, in some point, like it gets, and that is because it's not official cluster. Because if you think about it, if it's a cluster, they will not be wanted to leave because they will have special treatment and they will have government support, and so it's a matter of like for them to start pushing and putting pressure to promote a cluster there. Like Silicon Valley just went into being like a kind of top of mind city to go and being an app development company there. But if they don't switch that into a cluster, maybe at the long term, as you said, it will not be like a huge plan because people and companies will be starting to leave. And yes, that happens. But if we think about a cluster and what those they need to get like a cluster itself, as I was mentioning, you will, you want to say something, Andres? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, don't
Another
worry.
example that comes to mind is London as a financial cluster.
Mhm.
And I know that actually HSBC, which is Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation, they moved their HQ from Hong Kong to
Wow.
London because Hong Kong was very unstable with all the protests and the government situation with China. And then they moved their HQ to London. But now with Brexit, I don't know what they're gonna do. And many banks are leaving London precisely because they don't see it as favorable or attractive as it was before. So I think that that's also what you're just mentioning, that if it's a cluster, governments and cities should assure that it remains a cluster because of all the employment and opportunities and economic output that the cluster generates. So if you don't have a cluster, which is the case in London now, companies tend to spread out. For example, some banks are going to Paris, others are going to Frankfurt, others are going to Amsterdam. So you have all spread out, and that might not be very helpful for the London economy.
Yes, of course.
Which
And
is
that, I
which is
think,
ironic because London actually was, if you see like the demographic, like the voting breakdown of the Brexit vote, London was actually one of the cities that voted to stay in the European Union, along with Scotland. But other cities that are not London in England, they voted out. So it's ironic that London is one of the most affected when they were the ones that wanted to stay.
yes, and they are affected. And that will be a matter of fact of the company saying, hey, we are like a lot of companies in here. Let's stay together and let's like force, like, well, promote, and let's talk to the government. Let's see what we can do. Like, we are already here. The investment has already been done. So, and that's what I was mentioning, like sometimes companies and countries don't see clusters as an option, and it gives you a lot of opportunities on it. Like, just to mention here a few: special talent, of course, lower transportation costs. If you think in Monterrey, we have a cluster, a car cluster here in Sinaloa, León. Here in Pesquería, with Kia and all the investment that they've made, they made a cluster there, and they have government support. They have an official office of a government there established to help them, like in any process that they want. They have schools, they have hotels because of visits that they have. They are a complex of a lot of suppliers, firms, industries. Like, they contribute themselves together, and they are also like competitors there. And that will not necessarily be a bad thing for them. Because, for example, if you think for lower transportation costs, if I'm there and I need, I don't know, a piece of a car, I will have them there immediately because I have my supplier there, and I will not have been waiting for the supply, like for the part to get from China. I will just have them there 5 minutes away my industrial park, you know? So that's the thing that can also benefits a cluster too, being closer to your suppliers, competitors, and everything. The government subsidies, like sometimes when you are, and that gives me also the other part that it says power creation. So to create new policies, if you are a lot of companies there, you have a strong power to negotiate. So you can go with the government and just say like, hey, we are, I don't know, 10 companies, please put us a good transportation method so that my talent can come here. Please, like a good area, support me, give me advices. I don't know, like we would like to have an advisor from the government. We will have to have good transportation areas and infrastructure, and government will probably do that because they will not want you to leave the area because it promotes jobs, it promotes economy. So why would they like them to leave, you know? And also you need access to, you'll have access to needed inputs. So even though here, if you have your competitor there, you will have to like, hey, we will order the same part number. Instead of me asking for 2 part numbers, we will collect a higher purchase order and we will negotiate for them to be cheaper. I don't know. So at some point, clusters have been a good way to implement like competition in a good way, and also communication and, you know, like alliances. Okay, so when we talk about value creation method, which I just mentioned that services tend to have a lot of value creation on it, we will talk about, you know, the cost and the price that they put in the market. And the differences between that will be the value creation. So where does the value creation comes from? It can come from any part of the supply chain. And as we mentioned in the first class, the general supply chain that we are going to be covering will be starting with R&D, which is innovation, everything like new projects, applying new methodologies, I don't know, footprints, whatever. Operations will be literally technical things, operational things, the changing of things. Logistics will be transportation itself. Marketing normally comes from marketing and sales, which is where are we going to sell, how are we going to sell, and all that kind of a strategy, trade marketing strategy. And then we have the service, which will be like the post service operations. Like, I don't know, if you have a call center just to ask how it went, like if they went to your hotel or something. So value creation can come from any part of the value chain, as we are going to be mentioning. And you can have value creation only in the service, or only in the marketing, or only in R&D or in operations, or you can have it in all of them. Like, it will be a matter of fact of the company. And the basic types of value creation will be cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. So continuing in here, knowing more about cost leadership. It will be a company sets out to be the lowest producer of the industry. It normally will involve economies of scale. And if several companies have this approach of being cost leadership, it will not be like, it will be a disaster because everyone will have the same price. There will be no like cost leadership, you know? So some of the examples are Viva Aerobus, some of them are Walmart. So if you think about Viva Aerobus, it's like the cheapest company to fly nowadays, and it would probably be the most famous here. So probably, like literally the translation to Viva Aerobus is like a bus, like airplane bus or something like that. So it's cheaper. They will not, like, maybe they will charge you for all the things that you want to eat in there. They will charge you if you want to get an extra things to get into the plane or something, but it's the cheapest. So these are some examples of cost leadership. I don't know, someone can give another example of a service that has this differentiation. Yes, that's true. The TUA, it's the highest. It's a marketing strategy that they're making, but in some way, if you compare that, like maybe Volaris is kind of having the same cost leadership strategy, but if you change, like if you compare it to, I don't know, Aeromexico, it will still be cheaper. So someone can have like any guess and ideas. An example of a cost leadership company.
Maybe Ryanair in Europe.
Yes, that will be it. Like it's the Viva Aerobus of Europe. Yes, totally. Yes, Jimé?
Also hostels or motels instead of like fancy hotels.
Yes. Well, hostels, they are cost leadership. Yes, it doesn't give you the best experience, but like
You're
I
paying
mean,
for the price, not for the experience.
yes, of course. Yes, totally. Thank you. Miguel?
Like as a cost leadership company?
Yes. Do you say something, Miguel?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Oh,
you.
sorry. I was saying that what about McDonald's? Like, does it count as a cost leadership company?
What do you think? Like maybe it will be Burger King, don't you think? Like,
Is Burger King cheaper than McDonald's?
I don't know. I don't eat McDonald's.
It's okay, I haven't been to Burger King in like years.
and I don't eat Burger King either. But you know, if you see the ads like in the street, they will be selling in Burger King like a burger with 20 pesos or something.
I think McDonald's has more premium options than Burger King,
Okay.
but I don't know if it's cheaper. Like the average, like your average combo, Big Mac or Whopper. I don't know.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't have that comparison either, but
Yeah,
it
me
will be
neither.
interesting.
I
I
think
haven't been there, but I think McDonald's is cheaper.
Yes, me too.
Okay. It will be a matter of perception, maybe. So, Monse, you were going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say that nowadays there are like platforms online that there are like do it yourself to, so like the platforms like Traveo and TripAdvisor, they like search for you the best option to like what is more cheaper, and it's the same company but more the cheapest way to buy it.
Yes, because they have like a special cost, like a special tariff, you know? Thank you. And yes, in the chat they are saying Shane. And yes, if you think about it, Shane will be a cost leadership thing. Like maybe it will not be like the best quality, but they're not saying like that, you know? So yes, Shane will be another good example. Okay, well, continue to differentiation, and just like to read here quickly. So it says, a company seeks to be unique in its industry along some dimensions that are widely valued by others. So it says also the company should still try to lower the costs and prices as much as possible while maintaining its differences. Areas of differentiation can be product, distribution, sales, marketing, services, image, among others. So yes, so practically the differentiation can come from any part of the value chain. It will be just the strategy of the company. And just to think about an example, and I don't know if you have heard about it, but Virgin Atlantic, it's an airline that has a flight, and a specific flight that is really different, that you take the flight from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. It's a 1.5-hour flight, and you will be having it's the pre, of the party that you're going to be having in Las Vegas. So practically you're in the plane drinking and partying, and it's a whole different experience. And that's their differentiation there. Like, it might not be our whole expensive, but it's not cheap. Like, they maintain their prices, but they have these differentiation, huge differentiation. So it's cool. I haven't tried it. Maybe I will. I think it will be interesting to know it. And at the other side, we have Secret Donut Society. So I don't know, maybe some of you have had the experience with Secret Donut Society. Maybe some of you don't. Maybe some of you saw it in Shark Tank Mexico. And so they're right now they're only in Mexico City, but they started here in Monterrey. And at the beginning, they sell donuts, but they sell whole different kind of donuts, like bacon, maple donuts, strange donuts. And that's not the necessary point of it, but the experience that they gave, they will just be putting in social media, hey, we're going to be selling in this house. So you will just be finding out where they will be going to be selling the donuts, and just go there. And when you go there was a whole different experience, because you didn't saw anyone giving you the actual the package. So it was just all mysterious and things. So it's fun. It's different right now in Mexico City. I think that they have a specific establishment, but they still have this kind of experience that you enter and you pay if you were buying another thing. But it's interesting, it's funny, and it's a different experience, and that's the differentiation that they are having. So I don't know if someone has another example of a company that has a differentiation thing. Yes, Jimmy?
I mean, it's not a very common known, but American Girl dolls and American Girl stores. When I was little, I used to buy them because they came with a story and they came with an experience. You went to the store and they had a cafe, they had the little thing to fix their hair. So it was it's a whole experience for kids. And when you open the doll, it's also experience, because you get the book with the story of your character, and then there's a lot more books, so you can get to know them better. And I like that, because Barbies and Bratz didn't have that, and these dolls had them. So I mean, that's what made them different from the general market, even though they were pricier.
Okay, nice. I didn't have that experience. That's cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Someone else has any other example? Mariana? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that a pretty common one is Apple. So while there are a lot of technology companies, Apple has always differentiated their products through their innovation and also their product design. And I think also their operating systems is something that makes them kind of stand out.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much. Perfect. So last but not least, Focus. So Focus, it's a company that sets out in a specific segment or group of segments. Being the best can involve a cost focus and differentiation focus. It can involve both of them or just one. And it tends to be more complicated since the segment needs to be profitable enough to justify the focus of the company. So some of the examples that I just made here, it's Coppel. It's one example of it, that it's not a convenience store, it's more like everything store, and they sell pretty much everything. And the differentiation that they have is that their focus is on the base of the pyramid, and they offer all the things that you can imagine: a watch, a television, I don't know, like kitchen stuff, clothing, whatever that you can imagine. And the differentiation that they have, and that's why the base of the pyramid like to go there, is that they can buy the product and start paying like 10 years. O sea, yeah, like time lapses, big time lapses, but they have a high cost. Like they pay a lot in fees and interest rates, but it works, and that's why people don't care about paying more about fees and interest, because they want to have like, and they want to buy the watch or the TV or the clothing or whatever. So that's a good example of focus, and it's working really cool right now. And the other example, which is New West here in Monterrey, I think it has like a year and a half or something, but in Mexico City, it has more time. It's City Market. So City Market, it's a premium city market, like a market. And it has like special things, imported products, and it's more like a high cost supermarket in kind of way. So that's the focus that they're giving to it. And another example, which is one of the craziest ones that I will be sharing here in the class, is Holy Land Experience. I don't know if someone has heard about it, or maybe someone has went to there. Someone?
I have heard about it.
Okay, you have heard about it, and someone has been having the opportunity to go there? No? Maybe not. Like I haven't been there, and I was in Orlando for 3 months, and I didn't went there. But okay, just to give you a context, Holy Land is like, it's like Israel. No, it's a fake Holy Land. Yeah, it will be like a fake Holy Land, but they have like an experience, because it's not like going right now to Holy Land as it is right now there in Israel, but it's like more of a focus of how was Holy Land in Jesus times. So you will see there like the food that they ate, how they dressed. They will have like kind of a shows of citations of the Bible, and like there's a complete experience of Holy Land. So if you think about it, it's like a really focused thing. Like it gets really specific, because first of all, you will just have to think about Christian, Catholics, or Jewish, which will be like, I don't know, let's imagine this, of the total population of the world. Then it will have to be people that speaks in English, or doesn't matter if everything is in English, because it's in Orlando. So it will be like this. Then people that wants to travel to Orlando to see Holy Land, or people that live in Orlando. So it will be this. And then people that are willing to pay, o sea, people that are Christian, that speak English, that wants to travel to Orlando or lives in Orlando and wants to pay for it. Like it will be practically a small segment. Yes, don't worry, Paola. We're about to finish, so don't worry. And if you want to see the video recording, I will be uploading all the videos today. So yes, coming back to the Holy Land, yes, it will be like small segmentation, but in somehow it works. And it's because if you think about it, they have a lot of value creation. They don't have any competition. So at least I haven't heard about any competitions of Holy Land. So people that go there, maybe they will have a really good experience, and they will just want to go back, as I want to go back to Disney World, even though that I lived there for 3 months, you know? So that is like a really good example of a focus and really specific segmentation. And if it's there, it's because they have a market and it's working and it has profitability for the company, you know? I don't know if anyone who has any comments on this, any other examples that you want to mention about focus. What do you think, Jime?
I mean, maybe another example of focus is the Disney cruises, because they have to be for families, because I mean, the whole experience is designed for a family and people had to like boats. My grandpa doesn't like boats, so I mean, I couldn't go with him. So it's for people who like boats and who like to be like on the sea for like about 7 days. I mean, and they need to have the money to pay for it. So I mean, it's a very specific segment because it's designed for families who like Disney, who like boats and are willing to spend days in the sea and have the money to pay for them.
Yes, totally. That's a really good example. It's practically like Holy Land, but in a Disney experience. Yes. Thank you so much, Jime. Is there anyone else? Any comments? What do you think about Holy Land? Would you like to go visit?
I'm curious to know if it is successful, like if they are indeed attracting their target market or it didn't work out.
Yeah, maybe people are going just to see how it is and not like, I would like to know Holy Land like by heart. Like I haven't seen how much they charge you to go there, like the ticket, but I don't think that it's like cheaper. I think it should be expensive. That's my perception. I don't know.
It's in the weirdest theme parks. Like it's classified as one of the weirdest theme parks.
Yes, like I imagine. Well, so that will be it for today. I just want to close up with this quote that is, know what your customers want most and what your company does better, and focus on where those two meet. And that will be it. Thank you so much for your participation. I loved it, and I hope to see you. We see you soon tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day.